At the end of our last journey, the Akkadian Empire stood stronger than ever before. Sargon of Akkad had united Mesopotamia, defeated rival kings, and built the world's first empire. His achievements changed history forever. But no empire lasts without strong leadership. After Sargon's death, the empire entered a period of uncertainty. Rebellions erupted across distant provinces. Ambitious rulers sought independence, and old enemies sensed an opportunity to destroy everything Sargon had created. For a moment, it seemed as though the world's first empire might disappear almost as quickly as it had risen. Then, around 2254 BC, a new ruler ascended the throne. His name was Naram-Sin, the grandson of Sargon. He inherited not only a crown, but the enormous responsibility of protecting the greatest empire the world had ever known. From the very beginning of his reign, he faced challenges on every frontier. Mountain tribes raided the empire's borders, rebellious cities refused to pay tribute, and neighboring kingdoms tested the strength of the young king. Instead of remaining safely inside his palace, Naram-Sin chose to lead his armies personally. He marched across scorching deserts, crossed dangerous rivers, and climbed rugged mountain passes alongside his soldiers. Campaign after campaign, he crushed revolts, captured enemy strongholds, and restored order throughout the empire. His victories spread fear among his enemies and confidence among his people. Soon the Akkadian Empire became even larger and more powerful than it had been under Sargon himself. Yet military success was only the beginning. As his victories continued, Naram-Sin began to believe that he was no ordinary ruler. He saw himself as someone chosen for a destiny, unlike any king before him. And before long, he would make one extraordinary decision that would shock the entire ancient world and forever change the meaning of kingship itself. As Naram-Sin's victories multiplied, so did his reputation. Across Mesopotamia, people spoke of a king who had never lost a major campaign. His armies defeated powerful kingdoms, conquered distant mountain tribes, and expanded the Akkadian Empire farther than anyone had imagined possible. Ancient inscriptions describe long military expeditions into the Zagros Mountains, the Taurus Mountains, and lands beyond Mesopotamia's traditional borders. Every successful campaign brought new wealth, prisoners, valuable resources, and greater influence to the empire. Cities that once resisted Akkadian rule now surrendered without battle, knowing that opposing Naram-Sin often meant certain defeat. But military conquest was only part of his legacy. Unlike previous rulers, Naram-Sin wanted to transform the very idea of kingship. For centuries, Mesopotamian kings had ruled as representatives chosen by the gods. They built temples, offered sacrifices, and claimed divine protection, but they never claimed to be gods themselves. Naram-Sin broke that tradition completely. He declared that he was not merely favored by the gods, he was a living god. It was one of the boldest political and religious decisions in ancient history. Royal inscriptions began placing the divine symbol before his name, a sign previously reserved only for the gods. Statues and monuments portrayed him wearing the famous horned crown, a sacred symbol traditionally associated with divine beings rather than human rulers. Across the empire, people were expected to honor him not only as their king, but also as a divine figure worthy of worship. Some accepted this extraordinary claim as proof of his unmatched victories and strength. Others viewed it with fear and disbelief, wondering whether any human being had the right to place himself among the gods. Regardless of their opinions, one fact was undeniable. Naram-Sin had forever changed the relationship between kings, religion, and political power. Never before had a ruler elevated himself to such a position, and the consequences of that decision would echo throughout the ancient world for centuries to come. Naram-Sin's reign became one of the greatest chapters in the history of the Akkadian Empire. Under his rule, trade flourished across thousands of kilometers, royal roads connected distant provinces, and imperial authority reached farther than ever before. Massive building projects continued throughout Mesopotamia, while temples, palaces, and cities reflected the wealth of an empire at the height of its power. To celebrate his victories, artists carved one of history's most famous monuments, the Victory Stele of Naram-Sin. Unlike earlier rulers who stood the same size as their soldiers, Naram-Sin was portrayed towering above everyone else, climbing a mountain after defeating his enemies. Above him shone the divine stars, while he wore the sacred horned crown of a god. It was a powerful message to every kingdom that challenged him. The king of Akkad was no longer simply a man. He had become a living symbol of divine power. Yet history reminds us that no empire remains at its peak forever. After decades of expansion, new threats slowly began to emerge beyond the empire's borders. Climate changes affected agriculture in some regions. Distant provinces became increasingly difficult to control, and fierce mountain tribes known as the Gutians watched the empire from the east, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. At first, these dangers seemed small compared to the might of Akkad. Few believed that any force could overthrow the empire that Sargon had built and Naram-Sin had expanded. But appearances can be deceiving. Within only a few generations, the world's first empire would face its greatest crisis. Cities that had once prospered would fall silent, royal authority would crumble, and Mesopotamia would enter one of the darkest periods in its history. The age of Sargon and Naram-Sin was coming to an end. A new enemy was approaching from the mountains, and their arrival would change the fate of civilization once again. That story begins with the mysterious people known as the Gutians.